and it has to do with all the different factoring rules in one video. So here are the different things that you have to know. You have to know how to do greatest common factor, the difference of two squares, which only has two terms. Then we have trinomials, which have three terms, and grouping, which has four terms. All right, let's try the first problem. This is greatest common factor, which can have any number of terms that it wants to. It doesn't matter at all how many terms that it has. Okay, you have to find out which of these has in common. So if you look here, 7 and 18 have nothing in common. However, the y to the third and the y to the second both have a y to the second. So I'm going to factor that out. When I take out y to the second, I have left over 18y. If I take out a y squared from the 7y squared, that gives me a negative 18y minus 7. All right, let's try number 2. This has two terms, and it's called difference of two squares. We learned this in class today. Now, these are a little bit more difficult than the ones we did in class today. There are two terms. There's nothing that can be divided out, so I'm going to have two sets of parentheses. Since it's the difference of two squares, I'm going to have a plus in one of my parentheses and a minus in the other. I've got to take the x to the fourth and separate it into two parts. That's going to be x squared and x squared. I've got to take the 25 and separate it into two parts that multiply by each other to give you 25. That's going to be 5 and 5. Then I have to take the y to the sixth and separate it into two parts, which is y to the third and y to the third. Now remember, if you're doing coefficients, you're going to take if you're doing the exponent, you're going to take half of the exponent. But if you're talking about the coefficient, the square root of 25 is equal to 5. All right, my third example is going to be about trinomials. There are three different types of trinomials. There's a perfect square trinomial, which the answer is going to end up like this. There's factoring with no coefficient, which you can just come up with the answers by thinking of them and put them in the parentheses. Then you have factoring with a slip and slide, which has a number in front of the x squared. All right, let's get started and try the first one. Number 3 is factoring perfect square trinomials. We also did this in class today. My problem is missing. There it is. Okay, first of all, let's make sure that it is a perfect square trinomial. We're going to do this by factoring it, and then we're going to look at it. My pen's not working. Then we're going to work it and make sure that it's right. Okay, so if I take 81x squared, that gives me a 9x here and a 9x here. If I take the 25, that gives me a 5 and a 5. Since I have two of these, I'm going to put them together as 9x plus 5 squared. Now we have to check for the 90 to make sure it's still there. 9 times 5 is 45x. Remember, you have to double that, and that gives me the 90. So this is the answer to that problem, and it's called a perfect square trinomial. Number 4 has factoring trinomials with a 1x squared. That means there's no number in front. All I have to do for these is just come up with the factors that multiply to give me negative 20. So I've got to multiply to give me 20 and add to give me 8. Well, I can start with 1 times 20. That doesn't work. 2 times 10, yes, that can give me an 8. So put my x's in. I have a 10 and a 2. Now I need the 8 to be negative, so that means that the minus is going to go with the 10 and the 2 has a positive. Now when I work it out, I get negative 10x and 2, which equals negative 8. Okay, that's that one. Number 5, we're going to do slip and slide with. The reason I have to do that is because there are a coefficient in front. I'm going to take the 6 and slip it over to the end. That gives me x squared plus 11x plus 18. Now I need to factor that. Two things that multiply to give me 18 and add to give me 11 are 9 and 2. Now I need to take the 6, slide it back under, and now I'm going to multiply each of these. I think I'm going to reduce my fractions. 3 over 2 and 1 over 3. If you don't reduce the fractions, you're going to get it wrong. Now I've got to multiply this by 2. That gives me 2x plus 3. And the second term I'm going to multiply by 3. That gives me 3x plus 1. That is called slip and slide. Okay, the next type of factoring is grouping. And this is our last one. When I do grouping, I'm going to divide and conquer. I have to find the common factor between 6b to the third and 8b squared. That's 2b squared. I'm left with 3b plus 4. I do the same thing to the other side. Those have a common factor of 3, and I'm left with 3b plus 4. Putting these together, I'm going to take the 3b's and put them out front. That leaves 3b plus 4 times, you have to write down everything that's left over, 2b squared plus 3. And that is the final answer. All right, here are 6 problems I need you to write down. Try these the best that you can and check to make sure that they're right. Bring these to class tomorrow and you will get to use them on your quiz. Thank you. Have a great night. Bye.